Hey guys, Luca Pretolesi here at Studio DMI. This is Studio I. In the center of our console here at Studio I with the brand new SPL Venos. Very excited. It's a stereo bus compressor with the flexibility to do everything you might need in terms of dynamics control. So to me, the workflow is very simple. First into the chain to control dynamic on my stereo bus, but then eventually I'm gonna pull the plug for a minute for the stereo bus to run the vocal and record it back. Run a snare, record the back, and then go back on stereo bus duty. That's kind of the process. The unit is extremely intuitive. Just look in the unit. Of course, I'm familiar with the SPL style, so there's a certain touch and feel that you have using two ends for input and output gain and threshold and bias. But let's go really quick through the process of me setting up the perfect or the best stereo bus settings. All right, just a quick overview of the Venos just in front of me. I just want to describe what I see and what I feel about the compressor. First of all, the workflow. Normally for me is left to right. Normally is input level threshold, attack and release. So it's a great way to start your compressor settings. So moving to the center, your A and B, which is like on and off of the compressor, clearly when it's on is yellow. Now we're getting to the right part of the compressor. So now I'm set up my attack and release time and threshold. Now I have an opportunity, which is use the bias, which is little like magic, little formula that's affecting the entire compressor actually. So this gives you options, an opportunity just to change the behavior of the entire compressor as a one. The rectifier is directly work with attack and release time. So you have germanium, LED, and silicon. And I find extremely useful to be able to manipulate or change the transient response in case of individual drums sounds, or be extremely smooth and transparent on vocal or piano. This really affects the EQ detector, so what the compressor is actually listening. This will give you a different vibe. Strongly recommend on individual sounds to pay attention how much you can change the dynamic response on snare and kicks. It's really impressive. I like to use the LED or germanium on stereo bus. The extreme right, now you have filters. Starting from the left, we have the linear, which is the more predictable linear compressor. It's a good starting point. My favorite settings for stereo bus is modern. It gives me a sense of like snappiness and just modern compression without sacrificing low-end dynamics. Give me just like a very open mid-range. I like punch because for the level of snappiness that we're getting from kick and snare and the flexibility to push very high threshold, so high compression, and still retain the movement and the groove is fantastic. Now, don't underestimate the external sidechain also as a utility function. So with today's technology, with everything has to be stem out for different reasons, different purposes, you want to make sure when you print your stems, when you're putting those stems together, they need to sound exactly like your stereo bus. So let's say you have a piano, but then when you sidechain from the entire pre-master with a kick and low and bass and vocal, the piano will replicate the compressor of the stereo bus, equal to match the entire stereo bus master, even if you have individual stems. I recommend to use the bias as a final opportunity to tweak the entire compression setting as a one single element. So the bias is interacting with the tubes, is interacting with the threshold, with attack, release time. So now we'll give you so many options in terms of like respond of the compressor based on one knob. So be gentle, but be creative with this. The Venus is a compressor, but you have two settings of actually EQ. So you can have a nice smiley face, bottom and top, that's sitting always post-compression, or have like tape. So tape is a way to make a little controlled top ends and shave will be at the top. Both give you opportunity to use post-compression as an EQ curve. When I start the mix, usually it's all about gain staging the mix into the console. I want to leave enough headroom and also be able to replicate in terms of dynamics, peak RMS level across every mix through the console. Why I do that? Because if I want to replicate certain settings of compression across an album, I want to have a consistent peak RMS level through the desk as initial phase of mixing. So in case of compression, I have my sweet spot. They initially between 2 to 3 dB compressions regardless. That's a conservative way to approach stereo bus compression for me. And my go-to, regardless if I go modern, vintage, or punch, or other function, is always medium, slow attack, very fast release. That's the starting point. The reason I'm going for medium, slow attack, and fast release is don't change the transient response. Don't change the envelope and turn a sine wave to a square wave. And then fast release, because I want to make sure that compressor reset before the next transient. That's kind of like the way I start compressing. Now, LED, modern mode, again, medium slow attack, fast release, 2 to 3 dB of compression. It's the sweet spot, how I start mixing. And then based on the style, I'm actually responding with ideas. And the ideas might be, okay, I want to get snappier. I want to get more consistent. All right, let's do an A and B, with or without compression. Now, I want you to focus on just the energy. We're not changing the transient of the envelope, just the energy of the song. We're going to do 2 bar on, 2 bar off. All right, so that's a great starting point, extremely transparent. The goal in the initial phase is not changing intention. You just like make a solid control of dynamics, reduce in some way the crest factor, which is like the average low level with the top of the dynamics, right? We want a little bit control that. Now we have the flexibility to go and just be creative. Let's try some ideas starting from this starting point. And now let's see how far we can go in terms of like punchiness, dynamics, groove, okay? So with this idea is to get snappier. So we reduce the attack time. We still very fast release. So now we go for a different approach. We go faster attack, a little more snappier. Now still fast release, but we change the rectifier to germanium just to give a different tone and vibe. You're gonna feel now a little retouch on the envelope of the entire stereo bus. Now, because the stereo bus is not just drum bus, we need to be gentle, but still you wanna feel that you perceive every element come to the surface. So now when you have a big element like kick, snare, and toms, those stay the same. But then any microdynamics between, which is ride, cymbal, tambourine, and little snare, those will come up to the surface. Let's do a proper A and B, 2 bar on, 2 bar off. So it's great. So now we have essentially best of both worlds. We have more energy, more vibe, but we're not changing the intention of the mix, which is very, very important. That's one of my approach. So I start from one point, and then I try to kind of like massage and change a little bit the envelope without changing the intention of the mix. Another typical use for me of compression is drum bass. So when I process my drum bass, I can be a little bit more aggressive and be more specific in terms of what I'm trying to achieve. In a track like this, I'm trying to achieve the snappiness of the kick and snare and just try to squeeze more informations, but again, retain the same level of kick and bass, especially relationship. So I'm not gonna kill the transient of the kick to let the bass win. I'm gonna make them work together. We're gonna focus to just enhance the snappiness of the drum. So let's focus just on drums only. Okay, great. So what just happened? Again, I was trying to feel the entire envelope design of kick going into the snare, into the next kick. So essentially 4-bit on a bar to make sure that at the end, those 4-bit, and that's the next bar, I want compressor to just restart over again, compress again, and create a certain like pattern or groove. All right, what I did, in addition to my compression settings, I add a little bit of air bass, which is essentially a little smiley face, bottom, and top, just to compensate what compression might do. So you might feel that we're reducing a little bit the bottom end, we're reducing a little bit the top. So post-compression, adding that curve will give some air, some perceived dynamics back. So now you have best of both worlds. So you have a great smooth bottom and top, and now you have the right compression to make the track breathe and move. For drum bass, I think it's a great addition. All right, let's do a proper A and B, 2-bar on, 2-bar off. Let me present you guys with like a normal case of parallel compression on the stereo bus, something that I love doing, especially when I have high quality gear like the Venus. So the idea is to enhance even more the feeling of raising low-level information up into the mix without damaging or sacrificing in any way the bottom end. So no changes on kick and bass relationship. So we're gonna use the Hermes just as a blend between dry and wet. So my starting point is about 50% parallel, and we're gonna drive the compressor, listen on parallel, and then based on the feeling that we're getting from the parallel compression, we might push even more. All right, let's do it. All right, so what I'm trying to achieve right now is, first of all, go with the feeling. So how much I can push, how I can feel the track is getting 3, 4, 5 dB louder, perceived loudness, not metering. So I don't want to just get loud, I want to perceive, especially the mid-range will come up front, right? So now when I do that, now the game is blending. So how much I want to parallel. I end up being about 40% to 60%. So we have 40% of dry into 60% of wet. And then now the compressor can just go on faster attack because be able to blend the dry and process sounds will give us more flexibility. So now I switch to punch. I'm going for medium fast attack, still fast release, and just more compression overall. Now we go like 5 to 7 dB of compression. We're gonna use the Hermes actually to A and B at the moment because now we are blending the parallel of the Hermes, the on and off the Venus. So I'm gonna use the switch on and off from the Hermes. So when it's lights is on, compression is on. All right, let's do an A and B. All right, guys, that was my overview on the SPL Venos, our brand new stereo bus compressor here at Studio DMI, where every mix and every master is sitting right in front of everything.